September 14th, 2024. Well, I'm recording this video on location, let's put it this way. Won't say where. And anyhow, well, I guess the big topic obviously was the Trump-Harris debate um, back on Tuesday night. Um, let's say, I don't know, I think that the initial reaction, of course, immediate reaction, of course, is that, well, Trump lost the debate or something like that. Um, of course, when you really think about it, other than the Biden Trump debate on the 27th of June, didn't Trump lose every other debate he ever had with a Democrat, according to the media? I mean, and yet he won one election and lost the other one. So, and so I would say that, I don't take it as being that much of a, you know, if you will, gospel that's that he lost. What's interesting is that from my point of view is it's more like he didn't do things during the debate that I really wished he had have done than he really did all that bad. I mean, you have the cats and dogs thing, but actually, I don't even buy the fact check that it wasn't real. As I recall, and maybe I didn't see it from a YouTube video. I thought it was people at a town hall meeting with the city council complaining. Well, maybe I'm wrong about that. So that's my perception from memory. Um, and whether it's true or not is it was probably not the right topic to get into. I would think might be a little more just to say that look at all the cities that are overrun, the public services that are being denied to the U.S. citizens because of the stress of dealing with all these immigrants brought in, and the fact that the Biden-Harris administration are bringing these people in as a deliberate policy, that they opened the borders and let this happen. I think would have been a better focus than cats and dogs. But but another problem is, of course, the media, anything that's a minor faux pas, if it in fact is one, which I'm not sure, they focus on that rather than on the real thing. But when you look at the excerpts I saw from the debate, I think that Trump got some very good ones in too. The polling right now, there's a few polls afterwards. I know it's weirdly enough the New York Post decided to do a poll for the first time I've seen anyhow that got in a real clear average with Harris up three. Of course, she barely notched up in some of the liberal polls, a couple of liberal polls. Rasmussen had Trump going up 1 point, but remember only one day of the debate. In other words, one day post debate was even in the poll. And so, and maybe a little bit of, depending on where you are in the country, maybe some of the debate night. I don't know how that goes. So I don't know. All in all, I hear now that Trump is not interested in doing any more debates. Um, whether he sticks with that or not, I don't know. Um, whether a debate, it's interesting that Harris actually wants to have a debate, and of course, if she won so big, why does she want to have it? Anyway, if you like these videos, please give me a like. We're looking for more subscriptions as always, and of course, you can click the bell for notifications if you're on a YouTube account subscription. Or if you're on Rumble, of course, you can follow me there. So anyhow, but so that's kind of the way I see it. I mean, the Democrats are definitely raising a lot of cash. So I mean, I'm sure Trump could use more contributions if you'd be inclined to do so. I mean, that would certainly help out. On the other hand, the kind of campaign that the Democrats run probably requires a lot of cash, since they have a lot of get out the vote efforts. So, they have a lot of somewhat less motivated voters, I think, that they've got to get to the polls. So that may be a factor in the money too. Uh, it's kind of interesting that supposedly the Republicans are the big party of the rich, but the Democrats are cash rich in the campaign. A little bit of a paradox there, don't you think? Anyhow, so that's kind of the way that is shaping up on that subject. As always, the Montana Senate race uh, with Tim Shealy, I believe it is, against Tester is strategic. As always, if we can win that one and hold our own incumbents, seats, we would have control of the Senate. I have seen some interesting things on both the Florida and Texas races where you would think, well, the Republicans would win. I mean, and they're showing such tight races in some polls, which don't strike me in general as being the best polls either. So I don't know, what to make of that. Is that a real thing, or is it sort of a oh, whatever, kind of a some kind of a push polling effort by some liberals to stir up some interest. I know they're being used by the Republican candidates as fundraisers. I do know that. Um, I mean, it's interesting that the number of registered Republicans are now exceeding the Democrats in Florida for kind of like for the first time practically by what, 1 million, and yet we're having a tough time getting our Senate candidate reelected against some. I don't even know who the candidate is. I've never seen the individual at all or any of their performance. So I don't know. But anyway, those are things to look for is to make sure we retain the seats we already have. So, so I guess that's about it for the campaign at the moment. I'm kind of, I say, on kind of a vacation type environment and not my normal thing. Maybe I'm not missing, capturing everything I would normally capture as far as information. Another topic, of course, is on the Ukraine war. Big discussion right now, of course, the issue of whether the U.S. will approve the use of long-range missiles for deep strikes into Russia, the British Storm Shadow, and of course the British are always game to escalate this conflict, and of course the U.S. ATACMS. As of this recording, and it may very well change by the time you see this, it hadn't been approved yet. And I understand the issue on the Storm Shadow is that there are U.S. components in the missile, and so they theoretically can't do it without because of U.S. export control rules and stuff like that. And so, at any rate, remember if you buy U.S. weapons, a lot of strings come attached. So. So that's one thing that you kind of have there. On the other hand, there's U.S. components, a lot of the Russian missiles I hear, and we don't like it, but it seems like it's still happening. But and of course, Putin has been raising issues along the lines that if this happens, it will be considered to be some sort of a act of war by U.S. NATO against Russia, and that might lead to some kind of an escalatory response. Meanwhile, the normal people here says, "Don't worry about it. Their bark is a lot worse than their bite." So, although there are some interesting discussions on a Russian-friendly site, the Military Summary Channel, and they're discussing the very thing that the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee was discussing earlier, and that is that the Russians had some plan to detonate nuclear weapons in space in order to knock out satellites. That's pretty clear cut that satellites are being used, I think, to guide these weapons that are attacking Russia, probably both the drones and potentially these missiles. And so that remains an interesting question as to would they do that. To me, that seems such a radical move. I mean, first of all, even putting the weapon in space would violate the Space Treaty of '67. And then you have the issue of actually detonating a nuclear weapon in space would violate the Test Ban Treaty. It'd be a major diplomatic issue. So I'm skeptical if they're really going to do that, even though, I mean, obviously the Russians are pretty upset about the whole thing. The other thing, it seems to me like major escalation by the Russians would probably only occur if the attacks were doing sufficient damage to either lead to their defeat or to lead to something on the order of extreme damage to the Russian homeland. So I tend to think that they would be very unlikely to actually carry out these attacks that are being discussed. at this point in time. However, you have to be careful at some point that this could become real. So, and I think that's something that we need to always be wary of in this kind of environment, that it could get escalatory and lead to some kind of a real disaster. And the other thing I guess that you could get into is the question of exactly how um, NATO countries would really react if there was some sort of an attack on some bases, let's say in a NATO country that were supporting the war effort. Not attack on a city or something, but like a military depot or something. And would NATO really go to war over that? I mean, what kind of a war would they go to? I mean, we're talking about mobilizing, core strength formations of troops, set many wings of tactical aircraft in a full-scale offensive. We talk about some kind of reprisal strikes, or simply increasing aid to Ukraine. I think these are all real issues that one would have to think about. So anyhow, let's kind of hope it don't go there. It does look like maybe the Storm Shadows will be approved, but remember, they need to be launched from a very limited number of tactical aircraft, and so the actual amount of impact they'll have on the war effort is probably not that great. So we'll just have to stay tuned in and see. Um, and I think the other thing is, at some point it looks like that we need to get toward negotiations to end this conflict. So, at any rate, that's about it for this time, and I'll just kind of wrap this up for now. And as always, I'll be posting this on both YouTube and Rumble, and the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below. So, all for now.